World War II,
What was your branch of service?
Seaman First Class,
In the U.S. Navy?
U.S. Navy.
Yep. What were some of the general locations that you served?
Atlantic and the Pacific.
Okay. Were you drafted or did you enlist?
I enlisted, I was 17.
What made you choose to enlist?
Patriotic, like I said the first time,
Yeah.
and everybody was going, and there must have been about 8 or 9 guys. We got hopped on the bus together, and they were all 17 years old. I have it on a piece of paper where we went.
Okay. From your local high school? You all went?
No, we got on a bus in my hometown, Nesconi, Pennsylvania, and all the draftees that day were going on the bus, and we got on with them
Okay.
to Allentown.
Okay. What made you choose the Navy?
I didn't like being in the Army. I didn't like the cold or crawling on my stomach.
Okay. Do you recall the date that you enlisted?
That was, I turned 17 in April. Right after that, I enlisted.
Okay. What was going through your mind that day?
Nothing, just scatterbrained. Maybe didn't realize what I was doing.
Yeah. How did your family feel about you enlisting?
Well, when I turned 17, I was giving my mother a hard time about being patriotic and fighting for your country, and finally she seen I wasn't going to back down, and she signed.
Okay. Can you tell me about some of your first days in the service?
Well, we went to boot camp,
Okay.
and the boot camp, all it was marching, teaching you how to march and stuff. And as far as I'm concerned, there was nothing pertaining to the war.
Okay.
But they said there's the right way, the wrong way, and the Navy way. And I had a problem with that.
Yeah. Where was boot camp?
I think Sampson, New York.
Okay. And about how long were you there?
About 4 weeks.
Okay. How did you feel during boot camp?
Didn't like it.
How about the exercises? Were you got through it okay?
There was no exercise. You're walking and they're talking to you, and you go to chow, and it was hard to digest the food, especially after the good food.
Okay. Do you remember any of your instructors?
No.
Now, the same guys that you got on the bus with, were some of them at the same boot camp?
No.
No, you went your different
Yeah,
ways?
we separated, yeah.
Okay.
In boot camp, it was about maybe 150, 200. We all went on to Phoenix for the most part, about 150 of us after boot camp.
Oh, you went to Phoenix?
Yeah, right on the ship.
Okay. And did you disembark right to the Atlantic after getting on the Phoenix?
Yeah. We went to Casablanca.
Okay.
We went to Puerto Rico, and we picked up Secretary of State Hall, and we took him to North Africa, Casablanca. And it was a surprise when we ready to pull into the harbor. At that time, all the ships, you could see the mast of all the ships that were sunk. During the war, all the battleships had 3 guns. This one had 4, and they were enormous.
Oh.
And it was laying on its side.
Wow. That must have been a sight.
Yeah, it was a
early
sight
on.
to see, yeah.
Did that change your feelings by enlisting?
No,
Um, so you dropped off Secretary of State Hall,
Yeah.
and then you went where after
We,
that?
we went to Gibraltar,
Okay.
and then we went through the Panama Canal. We went into California, and Anthony Cipriano, his brother was killed in Europe. They're supposed to leave a guy off the ship, the other brother. They didn't tell him till we were at sea, and he served the whole war.
Wow.
And my other friend was Johnny Longo. Him and I were in the same division, and we were very good friends with
Okay.
both of them, and I visit them after the war.
Okay. So you stayed in touch after the war with these two?
Well, Johnny wrote me a couple letters, but I was too busy doing too many things, and I joined the Merchant Marines and so forth.
Yeah. Okay. So then after California, where did you head off to?
We head to the Pacific,
Okay.
and the first invasion was Cape Gloucester, New Britain. That's off the coast of New Guinea,
Okay.
and that was on Christmas Day.
And can you describe that day a little bit?
No, we were sort of. I'm going to back up. We went in, I think it was Guadalcanal, and the USS Boise took a torpedo. When I thought we had all this steel and guns, when I seen that ship, the way it was blown apart, it looked like somebody put their hand just through paper.
Oh,
That was a shock.
yeah.
Then after that, I sort of forget about it. Then we went into the surface battle.
Okay. And can you describe the surface battle?
No, it wasn't a surface battle. We went into the landing. We bombarded for the landing.
Okay.
And that was normal. Johnny Longo and myself had a bottle of gin, so before we start shooting, we finished the gin.
To get yourself ready for
Hepped
the
up.
battle. Yeah. Okay. And what was your station during the battle?
I was in the turret on the shell deck.
Okay.
I was 150 pounds. The shells were 130, and I was lifting them as good or better than most of them.
So you were the guy loading them.
Yeah,
Was Johnny Longo
yeah, he was with me too.
he was the one firing the gun?
No, he was on the shell deck because there was 3 of us on the shell deck,
Okay.
but in the turret.
Okay. To constantly keep it loading.
Yeah,
Okay. And at each of these places, Gibraltar, the Panama Canal, you didn't stay long. You just stopped
No,
a little bit.
no.
Okay. So after that landing, where did you go to?
We started up the coast of New Guinea,
Okay.
for the exception of Milne Bay, which is at the bottom, close to Australia. We made every landing in New Guinea and a lot of islands off the coast of New Guinea and on the way up to the Philippines. We made every landing in the Philippines, Borneo, Java, and Sumatra. I think it listed about 24 landings. And then the biggest one, we were on our way back to the States. They were going to give us, in California, 30 days. We were going to be there 30 days, and they were only going to give 15 days liberty. So we figured to go home for 15 days, say hello and goodbye, would be a heartbreak to everybody. So we decided we weren't going to go. So when we got, then we pulled in, I think it was Anahuita, I'm not sure. And they told us that we're going to Australia. When they said that, everybody's heart dropped because they knew something, we all knew something big was coming. We knew it was going to be the Philippines. So we had 10 days in Sydney, and then we went up to Brisbane. We were in Brisbane, they were giving us liberty, and after about 10-15 minutes, who got away, got away. Then they took them guys and flew them up to Milne Bay, New Guinea, that's where we were. They picked up the ship. When we pulled in the harbor, there was troop ship, tankers, freighters, everything you could think about. The harbor was loaded. When we pulled out of there, all the places in New Guinea we landed, ships were coming out, ships were coming out, ships were coming out. When we got into Leyte Gulf, we were going to make the landing in Leyte Gulf. So by the time we got there, the fleet was 18 miles wide and 35 miles long. Unbelievable. Then Johnny Longo and myself were kidding when we went in for the bombardment. He said, "Oh, I wonder if we're going to make it." I said, "I am. I don't know about you."
Yeah, well, that's a very large fleet.
Very large, yep.
Yeah. So you didn't
So
you didn't get any liberty then in Australia. You just had to.
No, we got the Liberty in
Okay.
Australia, but we were already out over almost a year, and then we had another 2 years where practically no Liberty.
Okay.
It was a long time. I don't remember for sure.
How was Australia? Did you explore the cities? Or?
Well, the last I still remember, we used to go to the dance, the Trocadero, in Australia, and it was all sailors and guys in there.
Oh,
I think looked like the fleet was in.
okay.
And
And
then-
when was this about in Leyte Gulf? Was this about 1944,
Uh,
43?
I'm not sure, 44, 45, I'm not sure.
Okay.
Well, when we get into Leyte Gulf, they had the hospital ship in the harbor. At night, the hospital ship's supposed to leave the harbor and turn on its running lights. We were the first ones attacked by suicide planes. So the hospital ship stayed in the harbor, and there wasn't enough doctors like today, helicopters, this or that. The ones that were wounded very bad, that would take too much time. They had to pick and choose the ones that could make it. And when they passed away, they loaded the barge and ran them into the beach. We were supposed to get air coverage in 5 days. It didn't work out that way. Bull Halsey took his carrier force and went up to Okinawa. They left the Princeton in the harbor. That was our air protection. I don't think it was a half a day later they sunk it. So we had no air protection. Then we got into the surface battle. We were in one of Sergar Straits. And then we were noted to have the most combat of any ship in the United States Navy. And our cruiser, the Phoenix, did what no other cruiser in history did. We moved in so close, we missed 4 5-inch guns. We hit it with the 5th. That was given our range, and then we opened up with all 15 guns on the ship. And we sunk that was one of our last Jap battleships, a big one. We sunk it in about 28 minutes.
Wow. That's good.
Yeah.
How long did this, were you in Leyte Gulf? A few days?
No, well, we were in Leyte Gulf, and then after that, I think the next one we made, we went to the Sulu Sea. That's going into the China Sea.
Okay.
And we went up to Luzon, and we made from Luzon. Then we made a couple landings, I can't remember, on the way down. And then we went into Corregidor, that's on the way into Manila. So we went in and we bombarded the island. And it looked like we hit them with everything but the kitchen sink, and they were firing back at us when the smoke cleared up and everything. So I think they held off with putting the troops, and I'm pretty sure it was the next day if I remember correctly. We started bombarding. A load of B-24s came through, and they smoked the whole island. And then about another load, paratroopers, the 101st, you could see them, coming down with their parachutes, and through all the smoke they were getting hit. Some of them were hung up in trees. You could see they're getting hit. We were pretty close.
Wow. And this was at the Manila Islands?
No, this was in Corregidor, the Philippines,
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
And then we went into Manila.
Okay.
We bombarded for Manila, and that went fairly well. We were just about moving, or practically stopped in the harbor, and a midget sub surfaced and turned on us. When he surfaced and turned, the destroyer rammed him, or I wouldn't be here talking with you.
Wow, that's lucky.
Yeah, lucky a lot of ways.
Yeah. Now, when you stopped in the China Sea, did you face any battles, or did you refuel?
No, we were in the China Sea.
Yeah.
Here's Lady Gulf, here's the Sulu Sea, then here's the China Sea. It's all Philippines over here.
Okay.
Luzon, and Manila, and the whole 9 yards.
Okay. Did you make landing at China at all to fuel up or anything? Or?
No, we didn't go to China at all.
Okay.
We're just the China Sea.
Okay. So after the Manila Islands, where did you go?
Well, we were still fighting all the way up and down the thing.
Okay.
With a lot of suicide. And then back maybe a couple months before that, I can't remember where we pulled out. And Tokyo Rose got thousands of miles from where we were. She was in Tokyo. She said, USS Phoenix, we're going to sink you tonight. She named our location, everything. Next thing we know, about 6 o'clock, a Japanese bomber, twin engine, come in, and he must have dodged the radar that we didn't pick him up. So we're running to our gun, and we could see him coming at us, and I was on the starboard side. And what happened, they missed the deck, but good thing, it was only a couple feet. And the bomb went down and busted our rudder in the back, so we were lucky there. So we lost 2 guys there and 27 wounded. That's all we lost during the war.
Okay. That's very good. Did you have to pull in to get the rudder repaired before you moved on to the next?
I think they did. I lost track of that part of it.
Yeah. About how many suicide bombers would you say came after the U.S. Phoenix?
No, that one was one.
Okay.
And then we had another. There was about maybe 3-4 times. When we're in battle, you got the suicides. We tied up in Lady Gulf to an ammunition ship, and we were almost out of ammunition. So we were loading our ship and firing off, and another ship, I think it was the Nashville that MacArthur was on, was loading ammunition on that side and shooting. And the suicide planes, they look like they're coming from, I don't know where, not heaven.
Right. Did any of them ever hit the ship?
No. The closest call we had with a suicide plane, he was coming at us, broadside. When he was coming in, we were firing all our guns. First goes the 5-inch gun, and then goes the 40 millimeters, and we were so busy loading we couldn't even look or just about peek. Then the 20s go off.
Okay.
And it was a routine.
Yeah.
I didn't realize how close he was to us. It was a routine. 5, 40s, 20. When the 20s go off, count to 10. If you get to 10, you made it. So he blew up 100 yards in front of us. The 5-inch battery had a direct hit, good thing, or not, the 40s or 20s wouldn't have taken it down.
Okay.
and it blew apart, and the wing flew over our deck.
Okay. It's very good. So you kept going up and down the coast of the China?
Yeah, we made every landing in the Philippines.
Okay.
We got 2 battle stars for the Philippine campaign, and we got 8 battle stars for the Asiatic Pacific. They couldn't put 8 battle stars on our campaign ribbon, so they put the silver star and 3 brass.
Okay. Now, where were you for your bunk on the ship? Like, how far below would you have been sleeping?
Slept right on top of the ammunition, 2 decks down.
Oh, wow.
Tons of ammunition. But that was annoying me, because from the bow to where the midship housing is, then that's all the engines, and next floor the cafeteria and stuff like that.
Okay. How close were the quarters down there for all of you sleeping together? Right on top?
Just enough, yeah. It was 4 bunks in a row. There must have been 150 of us there.
Okay. How was the living condition on the ship?
No, everything was clean. There was no problem with living condition.
And the food was good?
I'm smiling. Well, I didn't eat very much of it.
Okay.
So I come back a little skinny.
Yeah. Now, where were you the day that they dropped the bomb?
We were on our way back to the States. The Indianapolis was supposed to be, apparently, it's the same cruiser, was our relief ship. I don't know if I'm taking it for granted, but it was. And we had to pass each other. So the Indianapolis was sunk. We didn't know of it till we get into Pearl Harbor. When we get into Pearl Harbor, they told us about the Indianapolis being sunk. It lost 5 days radio contact. Nobody knew where it was. 850 died. I guess most of them eaten with sharks and going down with the ship. It was a mess. They made a movie on it. Then they court-martialed the captain. And later on, I guess from all the mothers and everybody writing, he committed suicide.
Wow.
We did the same thing as them. We're the same size cruiser. We crossed the same water, same path. Who knows? Maybe we could have picked them up. We were, it wasn't that far. Yeah, but no ship got noticed that they went down. They were 5 days before PBY spotted them in the water. And we were doing the same thing as them. We traveled at 32 knots, which is fast, and we did not zigzag.
And you made it out fine.
We made it out.
Yeah.
When they court-martialed the captain, even they had the submarine there after the war. The Japanese, that was the commander of the ship, of the submarine. He said, it's not his fault. There's no way he could have got away from us. I guess they had it all timed and planned and whatever.
Right. Where was your ship when the war was ending?
We were on our way home.
Okay.
But before you get home, where they held the first atom bomb test before Pearl Harbor was Anahuita. And we were in the harbor there when they said the war was over. Then we went to Pearl Harbor, and then we went to California.
Okay. Was there a lot of celebration on the ship?
No. The celebration is when you got ashore. If you stayed sober long enough, you could remember something. But the guys, I have to admit, all the guys, they took everything in stride. And maybe we were young and didn't realize, well, we didn't realize half of what we did till I got all these papers written by the New York Post and all the magazines. We used to have different times So that's a stack of papers I gave you about all the combat and what happened there.
Right. So, you went to Pearl Harbor. Were you only there a couple of days?
One
Or
day.
One day, and then you went to California?
We went to California, and then from California, when we get into California, this one guy on our ship lived there, and I guess it was close to where the ship was. So he went home, and he had dinner with his girlfriend and family. His girlfriend and him took a ride. They hit a telephone pole, and both of them were electrocuted. Then we went to Acapulco, Mexico. From there we went through the Panama Canal, and then after that we came into Philadelphia. That's when we unloaded all our ammunition and everything. And they had a big, I think I sent you the picture of all the sailors. That was taken in Philadelphia. And they gave the captain the Navy Cross. When we went into New Guinea, there were so many mines there, it was unbelievable. And they have the paravan, 2 cables going off the bow each side. It would cut the mines, and the Marines were with their rifles blowing them. We didn't realize how close we were.
Yeah. So, you were discharged in Pennsylvania then?
I got discharged in Bainbridge, Maryland,
Okay.
1946.
How was your homecoming?
Well, first time I cried was my mother wrote a letter to my brother but mailed it to me, and she was telling how bad and crying. That made me cry.
Yeah.
And then when I pulled into the train station in Pennsylvania, my mother was there and my uncles and everything. When I hugged her, then we both cried. That was the only time. But I never seen any of the crew really complaining. The only incident we had, this one guy we went through boot camp with, he said if a submarine, if a suicide plane comes in, I'm gonna jump overboard. And that was the biggest mistake. The ship was turning on the starboard side. He was on the starboard side. When he jumped in, we never seen him no more.
Wow.
And then the captain gets on. He said, the only chance you have of coming out of this war, stay to your gun till the end.
Yeah. Were you ever injured during the war?
No, not really.
Okay. Were you awarded any medals or citations?
Yeah, we got the 8 battle stars and the 6 campaign ribbons. We covered almost everything.
Okay. How did you stay in touch with your family?
I said email last time. During the war, I forget what V-mail. V.
Email?
Yeah, they were small like that. And I never, when I got home, my uncle told me I was the only one that never said I was in combat. I always wrote I was just doing convoy duty. Because what's your society? They're going to get all upset, and it's better, the least you say, the better it is. And my brother was in Pearl Harbor, so every time we went on an invasion, the ships got hit. They went, they'd go to Pearl Harbor, the ones that were repairable. So he was always down at the docks there, and then he'd be asking, he'd say, the Phoenix there, yes, yes, yes. And some ships were out the first trip, 3 trips, 4 trips. We survived 24 plus the surface battle.
Right. Now your brother, did he serve in the Navy as well?
No, he was in the Army.
Okay. Did he stay at Pearl Harbor, or did he go overseas?
No, he was in Pearl Harbor.
Okay. Did you always have enough supplies on the ship?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you ever feel any pressure or stress?
With the one petty officer.
How did you handle it?
I don't want to talk about it.
Okay.
I I was taking the captain's mass. And the captain says, you know, you're going to get general court-martial. I said, what else is new? That's the way I did. Then I could see him getting red and teed off at me. So I said, may I say something, sir? He said, yes. I said, this petty officer here was in the wrong place at the wrong time. That was December the 7th. I'm only 17 years old. I signed my life away. I had no idea whether I'm coming back or not. So the chaplain got in, and they leveled it out.
Okay.
I got 30 days in the brig. When I come out of the brig, they put me on KP, the best duty they ever gave me. The guy that was the oldest, where they do all the dishes, the scullery, the oldest guy was in charge. I was there 2 days and I was in charge. So I'd make sandwiches every night and bring them up to the gun crew, but I wouldn't give no petty officers any.
What was the brig like?
Well, when I got in the brig, it was funny. I'm talking with this Marine. We only lived 4 miles apart.
Oh, wow.
So we became good friends, you know. And the sad part is when we came back to the States, he told me come up as I was at a ballroom dance with all the big bands. He said, you have a ride, Mike? I said, no. And he took me home. He said, next week, and stay with me for the weekend. His mother, father, and myself, I stayed with him for the weekend. Then I went back to work, and I was walking in the house after work, and my father was holding a paper, my brother was there, and he says, you got to read this, and the phone rang, and it was his mother, 21 years old. He died. So she called up to tell me go and get checked out. I couldn't figure what happened, but he was really a nice guy, and then we wound up being good friends.
Wow.
So all the brig, my bunk was only a couple steps from the brig, so instead of being in the brig, I'd be sleeping in my bunk.
That's pretty good.
Yeah,
Okay.
I always got along with everybody,
Yeah.
but petty officers.
Okay.
Not all of them, I mean, it was just,
Yeah. Was there anything special you did for good luck?
pray. We'd be running to our guns so fast because the only thing we had in our head, we got to get there and fire. We got to fire. So we weren't thinking about anything. There was no chance to be scared or anything, but we did pray as we were running.
Right. Now, when you would be approaching a Japanese ship, would an alarm sound on the ship that you had to get to the ground stations?
We were notified because there's about 4 pages about that long. I don't know if I gave them to you or not. I think I did. And that was about the whole battle, largest service battle in naval history. And the other things is when the planes were up there, it was a Lady Gulf. Just guess, there must have been about 15 Zeros and about 15 P-38s dogfighting. Them pilots were unbelievable. It looked like a swarm of bees together. How they didn't hit each other, I didn't know. And then we got over the radio that Major Baum, he was a World War II ace. He was there and he heard his voices and he was going after this plane. He shot top notch. And then he went back to the States after the war and he was a test pilot and he was killed.
How did you entertain yourself on the ship?
Well, I think I told you on the last one. We'd write to all the girls or anything like that, anybody's address we'd get a hold of, and we'd sit down and we're all single and we'd be writing love letters to them. And the only ones, like I said before, is the guys that were married with children and the guys that had girlfriends. I felt good. I don't know how they felt. I'm sure it wasn't as good as I was feeling.
Yeah. Were there any entertainers that came aboard?
The only one I seen, and we wasn't aboard, I think it was in Manila or someplace, and it was in the Philippines, was Joey Brown. And he was in a speedboat yelling. He was noted for yelling, and he was going up and down all the ships in the harbor.
Was he a good entertainer?
Oh yeah, he was top-notch, movies and everything.
Okay. Did you get to see any USO shows?
No.
Okay.
We were too busy. We were from one port to the next. We were constantly at sea. And what happened, the Navy lost more men than the Army or Marines put together. I wasn't in Okinawa, but Okinawa, there was about 3,000 Marines that were killed, and I think there was 4,500 sailors, because them suicide planes, when they're coming in swamp, they go bogey here, bogey there, give you the bearing. The pilots will give you a bearing.
Yeah. Do you recall anything particularly humorous?
Well, there was a bunch of us that hung around together, and we were always kidding, laughing, and joking. You know, we were forward in the bow, so I made it with 3rd Division. My buddies there, the 2nd Division, was a deck up from us, and I had a lot of my buddies that went to boot camp and guys that made friends. We were always joking, kidding, boxing, wrestling, doing anything.
Okay. Did you keep a journal?
No.
Were there any pranks that you guys would pull on each other?
Not really. We had a habit of hitting each other in the arm, so when a guy come by, one of your guys that you do it with, you catch him off balance.
Okay. Once you got home, what did you do in the days and weeks that followed?
Well, when I got home, maybe I was about 2 weeks, and I went back to work. Because we were in Edison Anthracite coal region, and we were strip mining. So they put me on a well drill. First it's the top of the mountain, and you go back 6 months later, the mountain's gone and there's a hole 200 feet.
Wow.
So you're pouring water in the well drill there, and it was cold. I was freezing. We had a 50-gallon drum with a fire in it. I was standing all around it and turning around to keep warm. I was shivering. When I got through that day, I told the boss, I says, I can't take this. So then I got a job on driving these big diesel trucks. They were like the Boulder Dam trucks.
Okay.
So I was doing that.
And how long were you a driver?
Maybe about 4 months.
Okay.
Then I got married, and then I got divorced. It was a good woman, it was me. Didn't have all my faculties right.
Right.
Then I joined the Merchant Marines after that.
And how was that?
It was a very good life. We had menus. No woman, nobody could wait on you better than what we had. Because when you're at sea, you had all homemade bread, homemade pastry. You could order as many steaks as you want, the way you want it cooked, just like a high-class restaurant. The food was excellent. We had coffee and sandwiches for the night watch. We would be 4 on and 8 off.
Okay.
So I was helmsman steering. So you have 2 hours on the bow. There are 2 hours steering, because there's 3 guys. Then you get 1 hour lookout on the bow. Then you come back and you have an hour standby in the cafeteria. So it was 4 on, 8 off. That was 3 shifts, and you kept the same menu every day. You know, who started at midnight, who started at 8, and who starts at 4.
Okay. And you traveled all over the world as a merchant marine, or?
Out of Merchant Marines, I went to North Africa, South Africa, Trieste, Venice.
Okay.
I can't remember half of the name. But all over France, Europe, and everything. And the one trip we made to Trieste, we couldn't get a load of cargo because they transferred all our ships under foreign flag. Now you can see what here. In 1946, I was repeating what everybody's saying, like what Trump said, because it was true. Walter Winchell. I mean, I don't remember anybody on the ships in the Merchant Marine saying communist. They were sailing. Then you have to be investigated. After coming out of the Navy, you have to be investigated by the FBI before you could get your ship, you know, get your license. I mean, so we couldn't get a load of cargo from Trieste. So they sent us that car, West Africa. We laid in the harbor for about a month before we got a load of cargo. And then when we left there, we were going to New York, and we had some pretty rough seasons. We really got rolled around because this was a victory ship that Kaiser made every 24 hours was the expression. They're the ones that really got sunk on a Merrimack run and all that stuff during the war.
Right.
So then when we got home, I was good friends with this guy from Sydney, Australia. He said, Mike, the ship's going to Copenhagen, Denmark. When he said that, I'm thinking about freezing on the well drill. I said, there isn't a blonde up there could coax me to come up there.
Right.
On the way up, the ship split in half, all hands down. Gone.
Did they survive?
No, nobody.
Nobody. Wow.
Frigid water, rough seas, you don't survive. We had one guy, and he was really a husky guy. When we were going to Casablanca, he was doing something over the side and the lines parted. So he went in the water because we were 1 cruiser and 2 destroyers behind us, you know. So they're not supposed to stop, but the destroyer stopped and picked them up. When he come back on the ship, he said, when I fell in the water, I heard all the propellers going. When I was throwing up, I couldn't see the ship no more. That's, you know.
Yeah.
And he was surprised. He said, I thought I was done.
Wow. How long were you in the Merchant Marine?
4 years.
4 years, okay. Did you use the GI Bill for a house or
No,
anything?
nothing. When I was in service, I was getting a lot of headaches, passing out, and dizziness. And all the while I was back, I never collected a penny. So this organization that Alan Guttenberg that fights for us, he's seen my combat records and everything else, because I was in ship's hospital, Navy hospital, and VA hospital, no records. When I went into Lebanon, Pennsylvania to the VA hospital, they washed my ears out, and for 4 days nobody looked at me. And I just bought a car, I'm only a young kid yet. And I'm looking out the window at the car and I want to get out and drive, you know, get going. They looked 4 days, so I went up and signed out against medical advice.
Okay.
The VA at that time, up until I got the pension, they were lousy. They didn't even acknowledge us. I went to a VA in Wilkes-Barre and I was looking at the records, and this doctor took of course they're officers, they think they could do what they want, you know, took the records away, and I took them out of his hand. He said, you can't read them. I said, why can't I? I said, they're my records, you know. But they weren't good at all. So the good part is later on in life, I went to the VA in West Haven. My doctor was Dr. Zane. She was very helpful. She still is. She always put me in the right direction. And then West Haven, as far as I'm concerned, is the best place you could be. When I go into West Haven, because I had open heart, pacemaker, and blood pressure and stuff, as soon as I go in, like Christmas time, I called them up. I'm feeling lousy. When they took me in, every test you could think of, they gave me. When I got discharged, I said, my stomach's hurt, and she says, come in. So I figured, this is going to be an enema. So they took me in, they gave me an x-ray, and then after the x-ray, they took me down and gave me a CAT scan. Then the doctor came in. He said, did you do a lot of coughing? I said, I've been coughing for 4 days. He said, you restricted something in there. His term, I don't know.
Oh.
They gave me an enema, and I was good. Every time I go in, full treatments.
That's good.
So I give credit to the VA and my primary doctor.
Good. You talked about those friends that you made in the service. Did you keep in touch afterwards?
No, because I took off right away. And everybody, the first couple of months are doing their own visiting at home and stuff,
Right.
It's the old saying, we're going to keep in touch. But with Anthony Cipriano and Johnny Longo, they lived in Scranton. My brother and I took a ride. I met them there. And then maybe about 7, 8 years ago, I went into Scranton, so Johnny, his wife, and we called him Cubby Cipriano. There we had an Italian meal. There were Italians too. And that was the last time I see him. Then I got letters from Johnny. I always did.
Okay. How did the military experience influence your thinking about war or the military in general?
I think about it more now than I did before. All these guys that are volunteering and putting their life on the line, I couldn't see it. When the war was over and they went into Korea, I don't know who the hell. We were all saying, no, I wasn't on the ship then. I was saying, why don't they drop the atom bomb? Because I remember when I was a kid, the Japanese were chopping it, going into China, chopping their heads off. They even put it on the movies or stuff like that. Not that I seen it, but that's everything they did. I couldn't believe it. If we dropped the atom bomb then, okay. And they're all afraid of Trump. I'm not afraid of Trump. If we have to live in fear to walk out the door, get in your car, drive through a bad section and get shot, I'd sooner see the bomb drop and get it over with. I wouldn't want to live in fear.
Right. Did you join any veterans organizations?
No.
Did you attend any reunions?
No. They had a lot of reunions, but lots of them were from the West Coast.
Okay. How did the service and experience affect your life?
Headaches and dizziness, and I was driving trailer truck at the end, and I had to quit that because I was getting too dizzy, and I was afraid something would happen.
Yeah. Is there anything that we haven't covered that you might like to add?
No.
Okay. Well, Mike, I'd like to thank you for your service and for this interview today.